Hello, and welcome to this panel discussion arranged by Nordic Culture Point. Nordic Culture Point is an institution of the Nordic Council of Ministers, which works to support Nordic cooperation within the area of culture and to increase awareness of Nordic culture in Finland and the Nordic region. This discussion is a part of our series Arctic Roots, consisting of discussions, documentaries, and art projects on traditions, identity, and the living space for Arctic people, which transcends across national borders. So the title for today's discussion is Who Are We? Writing Workshops as a Tool for Young People's Identity. I am joined by a Greenlandic author and spoken word poet, Pivinnguaq Mørch, who has run writing workshops for the youth of Greenland, and student Aimée Ivalo Hornum Hansen, who has taken part in the workshop. And my name is Maria Bodin, and I too lead writing workshops for teens and children arranged by the Swedish literary journal 20-tal. Most importantly, though, today I have the pleasure of being the moderator of this panel discussion. So welcome, Aimée and Pivinnguaq. Just to begin, I wanted to ask you, Pivinnguaq, what are your workshops like? Could you walk me through one?
It started by this amazing photographer from France. Her name is Charlotte Lakitz. And then the collaboration began with Per, who's a multi-talented artist. He's a musician. He's also an author, and that's where he asked me if I want to be part of this project. And then I said yes, because it's quite interesting with the subject in mind.
All right, thank you. And you, Aimée, you have participated in one of these workshops, I understand. What was your impression?
It was interesting because I got some new tools and a new perspective on writing. And I can use that for creative writing as well.
All right. So, like I said, the subject of this discussion is, as you said, Aimée, writing as a tool for finding your identity or building your identity, or maybe even challenging your identity. So I wanted to ask both of you, do you personally, as writers, identify with this description of writing? Is writing a tool for your identity personally? Pivinnguaq, maybe you'd like to start?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, normally I try to hide as much as possible when I'm putting myself on the text. Maybe only a few people, like from my family, could know what I'm what I'm writing about. It could be about a certain experience that I had, and then write it into something, or try to disguise it as much as possible in a text form. But it's also giving yourself, or how do I say it? It's also giving yourself some part of you can be shown in a certain text, and it's always how do I say it? You could feel a bit behind certain that, and that's why I try to disguise it so much. And vulnerable, that's the word. Concerning about identity, for example, it could be about my upbringing, the way someone has told me, like that maybe someone has teased me, or it could be anything. It's such a wide concept, it's such a wide subject that you could talk endlessly. But I feel always a bit vulnerable when I'm writing, and that's why I try to disguise it as much as possible.
So it's a bit of a dual attitude towards identity in writing there.
Yeah. If it's concerns about identity in the end, yeah.
Aimée, how do you feel about writing as identity?
I feel like it's a healthy thing for me to write when like my thoughts I feel like they have been stagnating for a long time, and it's a great way to like I don't know, clean up kind of.
Well, that's a beautiful way to put it, I think. And I'm sure something that's relatable to many writers too. And Aimée, I was curious, since I think that maybe some of our listeners or watchers of this talk are might be interested in like in the very concept of a writing workshop and how to attract new young writers. How was it that you came in contact with this writing workshop? What made you interested in trying it?
It was actually the photographer, the French photographer, who took some portraits of me, and she asked me to write a text about who I am, and she recommended that I go to this workshop.
All right. I think an interesting point of this search for identity or expression of identity through writing workshops is that workshops are something that you take part in as a group, right? Which I imagine is also makes you vulnerable, writing in groups. Do you have any experience of what it's like writing in, like if you would compare writing in a workshop or writing by yourself? What are the differences or advantages and that sort of stuff? Pivinnguaq?
My first experience that's kind of similar the way the workshop are constructed as was 8 years ago. I was one of the winners of athlete competition, and then the winners met in Greenland in another town outside from here, and then we were 10 of us, and then we talk about our text for the first time, and then that's where I started moving. I couldn't stop because I was so excited. I was also so nervous, and I was so vulnerable, as I said before, because this specific text means a lot to me. Yeah, all the texts do, but it was the first time that I openly shared about my writing style or about the themes that I tried to raise with a group of people, and it gave me such a strength because we are supporting each other, and I never had like I never had an opportunity to talk about it openly in a certain group to people that I never met before even, and so I always gain some kind of a strength, some kind of unity together, and the togetherness is always amazing because at that point in time 8 years ago, I never met someone who writes, a young person who writes almost the same way as me. So it was amazing for my part, in my own experience. Yeah.
It really sounds amazing, and also it sounds not only strength-inducing but also very fun.
It is. I mean, I remember there was a joke from one of the advisors that we had. She said, "You get so tired only just by sitting down." But it was amazing. I thought it was amazing, and yeah, I can't say anything except amazing.
So then I'll leave you with that word, amazing. So Aimée, how do you feel about writing in a group setting? Is that something do you share this experience of Pivinnguaq as something amazing and exciting, or do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, and I agree with Pivinnguaq on being vulnerable. At this workshop, there were other people, of course, and after we had written our text, we read them out loud. And I wasn't the first one to read my text, so I had heard all of the others' text first, and that made me feel I don't know, more comfortable telling text too.
Yeah, because you're sort of at the same level then.
Yeah.
Mutual sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, you mentioned that you felt like you had gotten tools from this workshop, or that it has helped you maybe develop tools that you use in your writing. Or do you have any like example of such tools, or how they?
Yeah. I was recommended to write a text in all the different languages that I speak.
Oh.
It was actually because I said that my thoughts or how I talk in different languages and my personality changes according to my experiences with that language and the culture. So it was an idea to write a text in like changing the languages as I go, and it would be a text that only I can understand. And that I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds. Now I'm amazed. Because that's a thing that I've thought about too with these writing workshops. That since Greenland is a way more multilingual country than Sweden, where I live, I noticed that you have offered the options for participants to choose freely which language they are comfortable participating in, and how has that worked out, or was it like working with a group with a lot of different language skills, Pivinnguaq?
Well, normally at the beginning of the day, we ask the participants which language they are most comfortable with, because that's the language that they can write about during the courses, and it's up to them. My part is mainly the Greenlandic part, and pairs is more are for the people who wants to write in Danish or English. It's up to them.
Nice. And I've also thought about the framing of this discussion, and maybe of the workshops too, is writing and storytelling. Is this like a conscious separation that you do during the workshops? Like, do you mind reflecting on those two categories?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just it is to make it a bit more open.
Yeah.
So you can write about pretty much anything concerned about because it's you're gonna have to mirror about your identity, and everybody has a different point of view, and everybody has a different upbringing. For example, I was born in a smaller town compared to where I'm living right now, to the biggest city in Greenland. You can compare it through the population numbers. For example, Pivinnguaq has only 1,300 people, and Nuuk has like at least 16,000 right now. And so you can already see the different lifestyles right there. and that's the idea what you can write about, and that's why there are so many different kind of texts that were brought up at the end of the workshop, which is quite interesting. It is about people's point of view, what their point of view concerning of Greenland is, or identity, a Greenlandic identity. Um, I mean, it's almost limitless, but it's
Yeah.
concerns about the way you perceive your own identity.
So the openness of the text sort of mirrors the multiplicity of identity, you could say.
Yeah, pretty much. And it could also, I mean, it also depends on what kind of writing style you want to put on this workshop, because some of them wrote in poetry form, some of them wrote in short story form, and it's up to them. Even at different genres they can use, it's up to them. And that's where I come in, because I can help them what kind of structure their text should look like, or talk and discuss them with them, what they're trying to say about the message or the themes, you know. And it was just an honor to read their text, because some of them can be very personal, and I was so glad that they were open with me, and even the story, the backstory. I mean, they could tell me that, and yeah, it was amazing experiences that I had, and I gained a lot from them as a person, from the people that I met. So I feel so thankful. In the end, I can just openly say that.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing to gain that sort of confidence from other people and fellow writers too. You said that you have a lot to be grateful for from your experiences of the workshop. I was wondering if your experiences from the workshop, if you've seen any impact on your own writing, your own poetship or authorhood from the experiences you have in the workshop.
Yeah, as I said, when I write, I feel always vulnerable in a way, even though I'm alone writing, like in this room right now. But some of them were so direct, some of them were so open, that I felt a bit behind, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing. I would love to be like that, maybe one day." That's how that was my expression in the beginning, and few more workshop happened with the same project, and then uh, different writers have a different approach, and it was just it made me curious also, because like in my upbringing from Pivinnguaq, I never met one who writes besides my father, who writes poetry, and it made me curious. And since we don't have any author schools here as they do in Europe, these are just a few minor, small opportunities about writing. Like, you can openly talk about it, and so much more.
Yeah, a space that offers community is very important, I think. Yeah, thank you. And Aimée, we talked about that the feeling of vulnerability and overcoming that in a workshop setting. And you mentioned like the mutual sharing as a way to overcome like boundaries. Did you find anything else that made you comfortable, like in the way that you worked or wrote? If it's an odd question, I'll try to rephrase it. Like how experienced, maybe not experienced, but how much had you written before, like joining this course?
It was more like writing in my journal, Different styles of writing in a journal. Yeah, I've never written anything like, I don't know. Yeah, this was a new way of writing for me, definitely. And I learned that when it comes to writing, it's important not to judge what words and thoughts are going on. It's more about just writing, and then the evaluation comes later. And that has made it easier for me now to write anything, like from text to messages.
Yeah, I think that's very wise advice for anyone who writes, and I'm happy to hear that you have managed to like internalize that advice and go with it. And since you spoke about like evaluating or judging your own text, since I too lead writing workshops only for very young children, for elementary school students in the ages of like 6 or 7, I often think about what it does to like your attitude towards writing when you mostly write in a school setting, where you're often taught what is right and wrong, and well, frankly, evaluated and judged by others for your writing. And I think that maybe that's a specific challenge that you have when you work with writing with youth. Is that something one of you have experienced, like Pivinnguaq, maybe?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Do you feel like there are particular challenges with working with youth who maybe come from like particularly a school environment and that way of writing?
As a group, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think it's if you're going to write in a group, like in a certain workshops like this, I think it's very important to be open about it. To be open about the certain text that you want to talk about, and some of them are like the people that I met were telling about their life story, but it doesn't have to be a life story if you're going to write a 1 page or 2 pages long text, and that's what I usually say. But I in the beginning I also tell them that there's no wrong, there's no correct way to put what type of expression that you were trying to say, but you can explain it to the group or even just to me, and I think it is trying to create that environment, like the safe environment, the closed one that we are situated in right now, the most significant part before starting, because you can be a bit shy and like it's like the way I do, I feel shy when I'm trying to talk about the text that I've written, and that kind of viewpoint beforehand has given me like a thought that their environment should also be quite safe, like quite closed, and that's important for me and to the participants, and so you can write about pretty much anything in the end.
Yeah. Truly. And I was thinking about we learned we got to know a bit of the practical workings of a workshop exercise from Aimée with trying to write in all the languages you know. And I was curious if you could give an example of like some other exercise that you like to do with the workshop groups? Maybe that's like asking the magician to show his tricks, but I think it would be fun to hear.
Oh yeah, well I have an example. The previous workshop that we did was in high school, and from that I can't remember how many students there are, but there are at least 20. And my first expression during the first hour was that they were writing a lot more realistically and not using maybe a lot of imagery or something like that. But I used a warm up that that I sometimes use. It starts with like you can write anything you see inside this room, any furniture. It shouldn't be a living thing. And then they write I don't know how many, maybe 20 furnitures at least, and then they would choose one, and I would make them in the end write what the furniture is going to do today, like for the next hour. And normally they would be surprised because they're trying to make this like a wallet, a living thing, and what the wallet is going to think or what the wallet is going to do today. So it's kind of funny warm up, and it's end up quite bizarre sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's and it doesn't make you well, at least I hope it doesn't make you feel well. What's the word? I can't remember the word in English, but it's trying to give you a comfort zone
Yeah.
where you can maybe laugh at like a certain text, even though I mean it's just a fun practice. That's all I can say. That's what I can say. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I'm very glad to hear that. It's very similar to a warm up practice I like to do, actually.
Yeah. It is quite unique, that one.
Yeah, it really gets the work done.
And it makes you a bit more creative. Like
Yes.
wordplay is so it's quite necessary for that practice.
Yeah, and I think it's also a big positive thing with an exercise such as that is that it as like what you talked about wanting to disguise yourself in a text, that this exercise also offers you a chance to like very obviously show that what I'm writing isn't me. I'm writing about this notebook's day, this notebook's plans. But you can still, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's quite funny comparison between like the 20 plus ages or 10-year-old writer, because for the younger writers it's so much easier with trying to write about a furniture that could be a living thing, and it's just a funny perspective, I think.
Yeah. And I was wondering if Pivinnguaq, if you have any like advice for someone who'd like to plan or create a different or another similar workshop concept.
Like to create one or to be part of it, or
to create one as an educator, what's important to know?
All right. It's very, I mean, before it was my first workshop with a bigger group with this kind of workshop. I've done numerous times with, but with a different topic in mind. But I think it's very important to do your own research. Maybe you can also read about the, like, for instance, for my part, it's the Greenlandic part that I usually take. So I have read Greenlandic text, and even the way a writer's tools there's a specific book that I could use from a great writer from here. I read that beforehand, so I can use it as a tool, or maybe just to use it as an example, or how similar your approach could be, or how different. And I think it's the most important thing is to know your work before you explain it to a class, pretty much. And yeah, know your research, do your research beforehand. Just don't say anything if you don't know
it. Very practical advice, and of course,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's sometimes I'm a bit square in that certain view.
no, it's. I think you added something good. Of course, we've already talked about like the emotional space that you need to maintain for a workshop environment to be safe and allow vulnerability. So I think some hard facts might as well be added. So Aimée, to turn the question towards you, what sort of advice would you have to someone like leading a workshop in writing? If you imagine yourself to be the participant, like what's your ideal workshop setting? Here's your chance to give some advice for Pivinnguaq too then.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm asking you to do my work as a workshop leader too. I'll give you some time to let that question simmer, but I thought about something that we've touched upon a bit, and also with this warm-up exercise that Pivinnguaq described. And I think that a sense of humor and comedy is a very good way to create a good workshop environment. Just both to create that sense of community that is so important, and to establish like friendliness towards each other, and also to make writing well enjoyable.
And I think it's a way to like let go of the judgmental mind.
Yeah. Pivinnguaq, were you on your way to add something to that too?
Yeah, we usually explain that we're not going to point fingers about the people who are participating. There's no wrong, there's pretty much no right. It's up to you about this. You have the safe space that you can write pretty much anything, and I mean, the results are quite astonishing as well, because some of them were writing about certain taboos that you're not talking about every day, and some of them can be heavy, but they are brave enough to write them down, and they're brave enough even to share them with the group, and that's and I always see that they were vulnerable during that time, but I always applaud them in the end, because it is also about I mean, since the topic in mind is who we are, and that's quite valid concern about the subject, and and I hope that they gain some kind of strength even from these workshops. I mean,
Yeah. Aimée, I was thinking about your multiple language text in relation to identity. When after this workshop and after like identity searching through these tools that we've talked about, did you also find something surprising about your the way you find your identity through writing, or has it been more of like a grounding experience?
I feel like I'm more creative when it comes to writing. now compared to before this workshop.
Are you also more, since you mentioned earlier before you mainly wrote in journals, do you have more of a plan or a vision of like sharing your texts more now? Or do you mainly write for yourself?
At the time of the workshop, I was thinking of writing a book and publishing it. But that didn't last very long, and now I'm like back to writing text for myself.
Which is, of course, just as important.
Yeah. But of course, it's still on my mind. But I don't know if I'm gonna do it.
Oh well, that makes me happy that you're still thinking about it. And Pivinnguaq, are you planning on doing more workshops?
Well, I was a few months ago. I was asked if I want to do another one, but in northern Greenland. But it depends on the date because I'm a busy guy, and because I do all sort of things at the same time sometimes. But being an author is more like a hobby of mine, and if I could just give an if I could help someone to become a writer, I would love to. And so maybe during July, I might be in northern Greenland doing this kind of workshop. But it is also important to say there are not many opportunities concerned about writing in Greenland. And if you use them wisely, you can also end up become an author in the end. For example, it's in my own experience. I remember there were like open mic in Pivinnguaq, or there's a lecture about writing where you can also participate. That I've participated years ago, and then few years later, I wrote my own book because some of the participants had heard me, and she was owner of this specific book publishing company, and that's why you can also gain your contacts in the end because there are not that many opportunities here in Greenland, so it's very important to be part of them and openly maybe and try to be open as much as possible. In my own experience, for example, I'm normally very vulnerable, and I would be sometimes shaking when I read my poetry, for example. But in the end, it got me a long way. It got me where I am right now. So, but I'm not saying our workshops are the most important things because there are also quite different workshops out there possible right now in Greenland, which are most important as well. But use the opportunities wisely. That's all I can say before the end right now.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And also interesting as a reflection of how a small or a relatively small literary scene can both be a restraint and also a way to build each other up and to be a closely knit community. Yeah. And on those very beautiful and valuable words from Pivinnguaq, I think I'm going to close up this discussion. And it's been a absolutely lovely time to get to see you both. And I hope that someday maybe I'll see you face to face and maybe on the release party of Aimée's at last published book. And thank you very much to the people who have viewed and listened in on this discussion. And I hope that it will be, that this will be brought into your hearts and into your schedules. So there's more room for workshops in the future. So thank you, Nordic Culture Point, for this panel discussion. And as I said in the beginning, this has been a part of the series Arctic Roots. I have been Maria Bodin, your moderator, and I say goodbye to Aimée and Pivinnguaq. And thank you to Nordic Culture Point.
Fair enough.